So here we are, back on the digging up the swimming pool job. Already did quite a lot of this and didn't video it. But you see, I've dug quite a hole and I'm pulling out these bits of the original swimming pool that was here when Paula was growing up and before. It was built by Paula's dad, as her sister Carol was keen to swim, and swimming in Frensham Pond seemed to be getting a bit dangerous. A couple of people died swimming there in the early 60s. So Paula's dad built this swimming pool, but it was filled in the 1980s. I mean, here it's filled in with quite reasonable soil. So now I'm packing some of the soil back into the hole because I need to be able to get in and out via this end of the hole to get behind it to dig. This bit of crazy pavement was brought along in the 80s as well. I'm not a great fan of crazy paving, so it's going. Camera fell in the hole. That's quite an interesting view, I thought. I licked the lens clean and off we go. Here we go. Different camera angle, packing the soil in. So I've got a route to get out of this corner. Trying to leave the ground reasonably smooth so the water runs off rather than soaks in. I don't always manage to do that, but I should do more. Especially with the unusual amount of rain we've been having lately. Washing the camera off. Back at it again. Didn't take any videos first thing, but Paula came along and took these shots of getting a particularly big bit out of the ground. That's a bit of the side and a bit of the bottom of the pool. Up we go, out. It's actually steeper than it looks on video up there. I couldn't possibly lift that, it was too heavy, but I can drag it. So that was how it came out. Dragged it up here. Pushed it a bit further. Dragged it onto the blade. And then with it on the blade, I can actually drive off with it. So it seemed to be going well. Except when I tried to smash that bit up with the sledgehammer, I broke the window. I was doing this sort of thing. Whacking it. Whacking it and whacking it. And that does actually break even a really thick bit. And then you can pick it up and it all comes apart. So it's got like a wire mesh fence on it. So I'm trying to pull some of the bits of wire off it here while I'm at it. Which was surprisingly successful. Right, back in the hole, a new day. You can see the different types of infill that have been used here. The bit on top is quite reasonable soil, but the bit underneath is who knows what, all sorts of nasty infill. It is rubble, but it's not particularly nice rubble. Just not stable. So if you were trying to dig a foundation trench through that, it clearly wouldn't be very easy to get it to hold up. There's the original line of the pool that we're digging out, that bit of concrete. And then on top, that's where I've been stacking the stuff that I took out earlier. That's mixed with rubble, so we had to do quite a lot of hand sorting on that. Rob came over, and this is us doing the hand sorting. Except it kept raining, kept going in, having a cup of tea, then going back out again, work as quickly as we could, as you do, and then it would rain again, and we'd have to go back in the shelter, And then when it stopped raining, we go back out again, work like maniacs. That was really how fast we were going. That's not speeded up. And Paula came and had another cup of tea, had some lunch. We were all very civilised. Then back out to our hole, and Rob acting as banksman here, we were able to scrape off the good soil from the top, but not dig into the layer of rubble, and slowly scrape away that. Yeah, it was great having Rob being able to see exactly where we should be putting the bucket. So getting a bit more good soil, mostly good soil, and then once we'd got as much good soil off the top as was practical, we could scrape a bit of rubble, except that was still a bit mixed with soil, so put it into a pile for hand sorting. This bucket full though is really good rubble, well, suitable for recycling, let's say. I don't think any of it's very good rubble, not in my classification of rubble quality. So this went on for quite a while. There was a fair bit of hand work with hand digging, trying to stop the materials from mixing back together, and some of it could go straight in the dumper to go on our muck away pile. Some of it needs more hand sorting yet to be done. I won't bore you with that video. That's just soil, reasonable soil, going in the pile for spreading back over the site or putting back in this hole. And by doing a bit of spade and fork and hand work, we were able to probably do as good a job as you could expect to do with the reshuffling these materials, pushing that edge we left high back in so it didn't fall in the rubble. And a bit of hand filling the bucket, bit of scraping, bit more hand filling. Like the big bits it's worth hand filling, the small bits just isn't. So little scrapes like that, you can get a bit of stuff. And then Rob is picking out things that really shouldn't be classed as rubble, bits of metal and who knows what. I don't think I even want to say what we found here. That was quite a decent seam of reasonable rubble there, so I was able to dig it out. As long as I only tried to get a little bit out of a time, I could see whether I was pulling out rubble or pulling out soil. And then after a while it became impossible really to get any rubble at all really, so I had to go back to hand sorting it again. Now we're just removing material as fast as we can because it's all so mixed in. It's got to be hand sorted, and I think on balance it's probably easier to hand sort it on flat ground rather than trying to do that down in a hole. That whole bank is sort of caving away as we go because it's that bad rubble, but hopefully there's no digging required that far over, certainly not deep digging for foundations. So this is mainly about making the ground better for digging the deep foundations and not coming across big lumps of concrete material that won't hold a trench. Now we can start picking the bits of concrete off the side. I can't see that bit. Rob is directing me where to go, and he very skillfully got me to scoop it up. That was good, because we don't want to go in this trench now. It's too deep really, and too unstable to actually go down there. That's a heavy bit. A lot of these bits are actually heavy than they look. That's a big bit of side, and it going around the corner as well. So just push that over down there. And another bit. Now it's like pulling teeth out, this is. That was even bigger. Lay that up that side because I could drag it up rather than having to try and lift it. And Rob is pointing out where the bits are that need digging out. Just getting a bit of soil off. A bit more of the edge. And that's a big bit. When I was digging earlier, Rob said that it was moving the ground right under where he's standing now. So maybe if I had a big enough digger, I could pull the whole thing out, complete with all the rubble in it. So we've nearly done with getting these bits of concrete out of the hole. I dropped that bit. It's easy enough to pick it up. I don't know where I'd be without this thumb. I don't know how I would get these bits out of here, because I wouldn't really want to be down in that hole. And even if I was down in that hole, they're too big to move, so I'd have to break them up with a sledgehammer before we could have the chance of manually loading them out. I think that's reasonably done. So now I'm coming back out of my hole. I'm just compacting the ground here a bit and trying to make it reasonably level. Level enough to drive on. Don't want to get stuck here overnight. And just move this bit of concrete out of the way. I get turning very cautiously because I don't know how strong the ground is. I've been patiently compacting it with the bucket, but it's still quite soft ground, so I'm prepared for it to give way and catch myself if that happens. So this is how not to use the thumb. So we haven't really got that enough. Although almost got away with it, and it slipped off. But it's at a reasonable angle to grab it again and just move it out of the way. So the next thing I want to do is to get that bucket. I don't want to leave that bucket there where I can't get it to use it, because I'm going to need it. You usually hook them on the teeth of the other bucket like this, but this small bucket that's on the digger, is the teeth are so worn that it's not going to hook in. These ends too blunt to go in there, so I'll just have to shuffle back a bit and pick it up with the trusty thumb. They're pretty strong, these buckets, but I don't use too much force on them in case I bend them or anything. Bit wobbly there, the ground isn't flat, so it's a bit bouncy. So I'm just going to level that out a bit more. So on my left there's a bit of a lump here, but it's clearly raining again, so I'm afraid you've got a blurry vision of that happening because the rain has dripped. Give myself a little bit of a help up the hill. And we're out of the hole. So the upcoming jobs are sorting that pile that Rob's standing by, sorting that out, getting the big bits of stuff out of it so we can use that as infill. You see, this is actually a deceptively big hole, and you can see the ground is breaking away. Where I'm standing to video this, I'm standing on a big pile of that same rubbly stuff. So yeah, it's a landmark step really, getting that pool dug out one side. I was wondering how we were going to do that. So the next stage will be filling it in again and compacting the ground.